Lakes.
Mr. Speaker, the government House Leader seems very convinced that the Conservatives had arrived at a conclusion before the investigation began. But it's Liberal members who called it a witch hunt. It's Liberal members who called it a fishing expedition. Exactly. And now twice this Prime Minister has been caught misleading Canadians. First, he said the story about political interference in SNC-Lavalin was false. Clearly, that's not true. Then he said that no one came forward to him with concerns about interference with SNC. But yesterday, he admitted to hearing the concerns raised by the former Attorney General. He caught himself in his own trap. Why won't the Prime Minister tell the
The Honourable Government House Leader.
Mr. Speaker, I can reassure this House, reassure all Canadians that we believe that Canadians should be able to hear for themselves, and that's exactly why the Prime Minister waived solicitor-client privilege as well as cabinet confidence. What is clear is that the Conservatives will continue to focus on us, but Mr. Speaker, we will continue to focus on Canadians. We will continue to have respect for our institutions. We know that the Justice Committee did its important work. We know that the Conflict of Interest and Ethics Commissioner is currently investigating this matter, and we know that there's an ongoing court case. We on this side, we respect our institutions. We do not undermine them like the Conservatives do and did under 10 years of Stephen Harper. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
For Battleford's Lloydminster.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I think if the current government was actually focused on Canadians, they'd be telling the truth and being transparent. We know that this Prime Minister has been caught misleading Canadians twice. First, he told Canadians that SNC-Lavalin's story was false. That wasn't true. And now yesterday, he admitted to hearing the concern raised by the former Attorney General on September 17th. Instead of fabricating more falsehoods or showing the door to anyone who dares to tell the truth, why don't the Prime Minister just tell the truth?
Hear, hear. Honourable Government House Leader.
Mr. Speaker, to ensure that Canadians can hear the truth for themselves is exactly why the Prime Minister waived solicitor-client privilege as well as cabinet confidence. Mr. Speaker, these meetings took place in public so that Canadians could hear and decide for themselves. And for anyone that actually listened to the witness testimony, they would have heard that the rule of law in Canada was followed and that the rule of law is intact in Canada. But we recognize we can always strengthen our institutions, and that's why the Prime Minister has taken additional steps. The Prime Minister has also stated that he should have directly spoken with the Minister. Thank you.
The Honourable Member for Louis Saint Laurent. Mr. Speaker, all parents tell their children that they should always tell the truth because sooner or later everything comes out. So that's exactly what the Prime Minister has been doing for 8 months. For 8 months, the Prime Minister has been unable to tell the truth to Canadians. We remember that in February, he said that no one spoke to him about their concerns regarding political interference in SNC-Lavalin. And yesterday, he finally recognized that, yes, on September 17th, the former Attorney General did raise concerns to him. When will the Prime Minister stand up and finally tell the truth to Canadians? The Honourable Government House Leader. Mr. Speaker, to make sure that Canadians can hear the truth for themselves, the Prime Minister waived solicitor-client privilege and cabinet confidence. And something else that parents tell their children, Mr. Speaker, they tell them, you have to respect the rules. You have to respect institutions. And we have to help future generations. But the Conservatives don't have any respect, and they don't have a plan. The Honourable Member for Louis Saint Laurent. And that is why, Mr. Speaker, that under our government, greenhouse gases were reduced by 2.2%. That's what the Conservatives have done. Respect for institutions, Mr. Speaker, well, that means preventing partisan politics from getting into our judiciary system. And that's what's happening with SNC-Lavalin. Yes, the Liberals want to be re-elected because they're playing partisan politics with the legal system. When will the Prime Minister finally stand up and tell the truth to Canadians? The Honourable Government House Leader. Mr. Speaker, one of the first things that Stephen Harper and the Conservatives did was to halt the Kyoto Protocol, and Canadians know this very well. Today, they continue to talk, but I heard his question, but they'll never listen to the answer. And now he'll explain why Ontario has done so well, but Ontario produced results because the Liberal government made decisions, and we know that the provincial or federal Conservatives will not do so.
Order.